If you could stop surviving, what would you finally start living? When only the body keeps going, some people just keep going. Not knowing how, not knowing why. They just do. They wake up, put their feet on the floor, get dressed in silence. They smile, so no one worries. Swallow it down, so no one asks questions. They do what must be done, even when nothing makes sense anymore. And when everything quiets down at night, what's left is a haunting sensation. They're alive, but something inside no longer breathes. Have you felt that? Sometimes it feels like we're just repeating a script. The body plays its part, but the soul watches from a distance, unsure if it belongs in this life anymore. When did you stop listening to yourself? When did your own story start sounding like a memorized script full of lines you never chose? Maybe it began when you decided to be strong all the time, or when you realized being accepted was more important than being whole. Or maybe it was when dreaming became too risky, and so you chose survival. The silent survival mode. Survival has a particular sound. It doesn't scream, it whispers, it says, just one more day. It repeats, it's better not to talk about it now. It convinces they wouldn't understand anyway. And so you go on, doing everything right, praised by many, admired by some, and understood by almost no one. But deep down, you know your strength has a cost, and your routine tastes like quiet resignation. How many times have you looked in the mirror and tried to remember the last time you did something just because you wanted to, not because you had to? How many times have you hidden your pain so you wouldn't ruin the mood? How many times have you silenced yourself because the room had no space for your truth? And how many times did you smile while quietly wishing to disappear for a while? It's not that you're weak. You're just exhausted. And it's not that you're unhappy. You're surviving. And that is the opposite of truly living. It's the silences that screamed the world taught you to stay busy, but not to stay alive. You learned how to run, how to meet deadlines, how to please, how to be productive. Cool. But no one taught you how to pause and ask, what do I truly want? Maybe that's why you forgot how to want something that isn't tied to responsibility. Can you remember the last time you chose yourself, even if it meant disappointing someone? Can you recall the moment you stopped asking for help because you figured no one would understand? Can you admit that you traded a dream for safety and told yourself it was just adulthood? Little by little, you start getting used to it, to the emptiness, to the rush. But living should never feel automatic. Living should be a choice, and maybe that's why you feel so much, even when you can't explain what it is. The invisible currents, there are forces that pull you, nameless, shapeless, but powerful. They say, you have to keep going. They whisper, don't complain. Others have it worse. They shout, even when no one hears, you can't stop now. But what if you could stop, just for a moment, not to give up, but to find yourself again? Have you ever asked yourself what you'd do if you didn't have to be strong all the time? Have you wondered what exists underneath this polished version you show the world? What would happen if you didn't worry about disappointing the people who expect so much from you? Maybe you'd cry. Maybe you'd finally rest. Maybe you'd say no. Maybe you'd ask for help, or forgiveness, or peace. Maybe you'd finally start to live. Forgotten versions of you. There are versions of you scattered across the years, not lost by carelessness, but by survival. You stopped singing, stopped writing, stopped dancing barefoot in the living room, stopped dreaming about that trip, stopped allowing yourself to fail, stopped trying to explain what you feel, stopped being light dot, and now, here you are, strong, yes. But how many parts of yourself were left behind? If you gathered all your forgotten selves into one room, what would they say when they saw you now? Could you look into the eyes of the girl who once believed in magic and tell her, honestly, that everything's okay? Or would she ask you, why did you stop living for me? The story you never wrote. If someone were to narrate your life like a book, what kind of story would it be? Survival tale full of repeated chapters, or a diary with blank pages between exhausted paragraphs? And what if the life you're living isn't the story you ever meant to write? Do you have the courage to admit you're not happy, even if everything looks perfect on paper? Because sometimes staying unhappy feels easier than facing the pain of starting over. But what if you could begin again? No guilt, no fear, no permission required. Would you know how to write your own story from here? What would the first sentence be? Chapter 7. The weight no one sees. The heaviest things aren't on your shoulders. They're in your chest. Words left unsaid. Feelings buried too deep. Dreams postponed. Tears swallowed. Screams suppressed. It all adds up, and one day, without warning, it overflows. Have you felt that? That moment when even surrounded by people, you still feel invisible. That split second when the whole world keeps spinning, and all you want is for everything to stop. And if your pain is just a disguised request for attention, would you dare to listen to it? The light that still flickers despite everything. Something in you still flickers, even bruised, even numb, even tired. It's faint, but it's alive. It whispers when the noise dies down. Sometimes it asks, what if there's still time? What if something beautiful is still waiting for you? What if it's not too late to try again? Do you hear it? Or have you trained yourself to silence hope before it reminds you of what could have been? What if living is simpler than it seems? Right? What if it starts the moment you stop pretending everything is okay? It's the first move. You don't need to change everything today, but you do need to admit you've been surviving. What if you could take just one step outside that pattern? Where would you begin? Who do you need to stop pleasing to finally start living your own life? It's what still ties you to places that hurt you too many times. Surviving was necessary, but now living might be urgent. You deserve more than to endure. You deserve to feel. You deserve to be. You deserve to choose. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you deserve to stop just surviving. It's the life that became a routine. You wake up right on time. You check the messages, answer what needs answering. You drink your coffee while already thinking of 10 other things. You complete the tasks, deliver, show up, smile. You do everything right. On paper, you're functioning, but on the inside, you're vanishing. Where are you in the middle of everything you do? What happens to a life that's turned into a job description? When did your worth start being measured by what you do, not by who you are? Can you pinpoint the moment when you stopped expressing your own desires and started just fulfilling obligations? Maybe you didn't even notice it. Maybe you were just trying to cope, but little by little, your life stopped feeling like yours, and all that's left is performance. Chapter 11. The walls you called home. You built a routine. It gave you structure. It gave you protection. It gave you safety, but it also caged you. How many things did you stop doing simply because they don't fit your schedule anymore? How many times have you said yes to everyone but yourself? Do your days reflect who you are, or just who others expect you to be? If you could step out of your autopilot for just one day, would you know what to do with your freedom? Do you still remember what joy feels like? Unplanned, unearned, undeserved? Or has everything become a checkbox? Chapter 12. The locked rooms of you. There are rooms inside of you. Doors you closed a long time ago. Some because they were too painful. Others because you were told they were dangerous. Okay, you simply forgot existed, but they're still there. And when everything's quiet, you can hear the knock. It's a soft tap from the inside. I'm still here. If you could unlock just one of them, which would you dare to face first? What truth are you terrified of confronting? Do you ever feel trapped inside yourself, even when the world sees you as completely free? What if the prison you live in was built from your own silence? Chapter 13. The mirror you avoid. You see your face every day. But do you actually see yourself? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and whispered, "This is me"? Do you recognize the woman staring back? Or did she become a role, well rehearsed, perfectly performed, completely detached? What would happen if you met your rawest self, unmasked, unfiltered, in a room with no expectations? Would you hug her or look away? You've been surviving like a character in someone else's story, capable, organized, reliable, and exhausted. How many versions of you did you invent to fit into places that never deserved you? What if today you could step off the stage and just breathe? It's chapter 14. The time you didn't live, time passed. You matured. You handled things. Showed up. You accomplished. But somewhere along the way, time never stopped to ask if you actually wanted any of this. How many years did you trade for a definition of success that never felt like yours? Okay, how many yeses did you say just because no felt too dangerous? What if your exhaustion isn't about lacking time, but lacking presence? Maybe it's not too late. Maybe time isn't the enemy. Maybe it's just been waiting for you to choose yourself. Chapter 15. The restarts. You refuse. Not all pain is punishment. Some pain is an invitation to move on, to let go, to walk away, to finally admit, I don't belong here anymore. But do you listen? Or do you stay, hoping this time it will hurt less? What would you take back if fear hadn't made you say yes? How many times have you held on? Not because it was right, but because it was known. Do you still know how to tell the difference between love and habit? How many crumbs have you accepted, convincing yourself they were a feast? Staying for too long in the wrong place doesn't make you loyal. It makes you disappear. The wound you call strength, sometimes your strength is just a wound no one allowed you to heal. You've learned how to endure, how to stay quiet, how to keep smiling, how to perform while bleeding. But what's the cost? Who taught you that being strong means never falling apart? You ever secretly wished for just one moment where you could fall and someone would catch you? If you could stop being strong just for a day, what would surface from the silence? Would you recognize yourself without your armor? The body that's trying to tell youth body never lies. It whispers. And when you don't listen, it screams. Unexplained pain, chronic exhaustion, tight chest, sleepless nights, appetite loss, random tears. Every symptom is a message. What if your body has been writing letters you never opened? What would it say about your lifestyle, about your silence, about the places you force it to return to again and again? What if your body isn't betraying you? It's just finally refusing to cooperate with the life you built out of fear, to wish that still breathes even after everything. You still wish, maybe not loudly, maybe not often, but it's there, that quiet desire, that flicker that returns when no one's looking. That secret dream you rehearse in your head before falling asleep. If you could give that dream a voice, what would it ask for today? If you gave it just one day of freedom, no guilt, no edits, what would it create? Do you still believe you're allowed to want? Or did you teach yourself that comfort is safer than fulfillment? What if the ache isn't a flaw, but a compass? The light you haven't lost, you still have it, even if it's dim, even if it's buried, even if you've tried to extinguish it to fit in. That light inside you, the one that craves, creates, aches, dreams. It's not dead, just sleeping. Can you feel it? Do you sometimes sense that this isn't all there is? Do you dare to believe that something beautiful still waits for you? If only you turn in a slightly different direction. What if the life you want isn't far, but you've been walking in the wrong shoes? It's a voice that's coming back. There's a voice in you, not the loud one that pleases, not the polite one that agrees, not the professional one that performs, the real one. She's waking up, and she's not angry. She's just tired of waiting. What would she say if you finally listened? So you stopped silencing your longings just to stay in line. Maybe she'd whisper, "You're not here to survive. It's here to live." Okay? And if you heard that, really heard it, would you still go back to who you were before? The breath you almost forgot sometimes. All you need is a breath, not a miracle, not a breakthrough. It's a single breath where no one needs anything from you. A space to exist without producing, pleasing, or pretending. Have you ever caught yourself wishing the world would just pause for 5 minutes, just so you could remember how to breathe? What would happen if, today, you gave yourself permission to stop proving your worth? What if simply being was enough? It's the world trained you to move faster, but not how to be still, to survive, but not to feel. And what if stillness is the only place where your truth can rise? The lightness you denied yourself lightness is frightening, especially when you've been taught that love must hurt. That peace is suspicious. That joy is always temporary. Have you ever pushed away something good just because it felt unfamiliar? How many times have you self-sabotaged the exact thing you always said you wanted? What would your life look like if you stopped expecting the worst every time you felt happy? If the world handed you one guilt-free day of peace, no apologies, no pressure, what would you do with it? Do you believe you deserve lightness, or has heaviness become your default setting? The fear of climbing down, you made it. You climbed the mountain. You followed the steps. You arrived at what others called success, and yet you feel empty. What happens when you reach the top and realize you're cold? Do you have the courage to come back down, to admit that maybe this isn't it, that you built a life that looks good, but it feels wrong? How many years have you stayed somewhere, not out of love, but out of fear of starting over? And if that fear didn't exist, where would you go? The child who still watches, she's still there, sitting quietly inside you, watching, waiting. But little girl you used to be, is the one who believed in everything, who danced for no reason, who asked for hugs without shame. Do you still remember what she dreamed of becoming? Would she recognize the adult you've become? Would she ask you why you stopped painting, or singing, or hoping? What if she whispered, "Why did you stop living?" For me, could you look her in the eyes and answer honestly? The loop you know too well. How many times have you said, "This time will be different"? How many times did you promise yourself you wouldn't go back, only to return to the same story with a different name? Why do we return to what hurts? Why do we say yes to what already failed us? Is it habit or fear? What part of you still believes this is the best you can get? What would it take to say no more? What would happen if you broke the pattern, not tomorrow, but now? The love you never gave yourself, you're good at love. You know how to hold others, the comfort, how to give. But do you know how to give that same love to yourself? Would you talk to someone you love the way you talk to your own reflection? How many times have you abandoned yourself in the name of being nice, helpful, or strong? What if loving yourself is not a luxury, but a survival need? You offer yourself grace right now, even if you're messy, broken, tired. Would you even know how? The words you never said you've held back so much, swallowed entire chapters. There were moments when the words made it all the way to your lips and then retreated back into silence. What would you have said if fear hadn't silenced you? Who needed to hear your truth, but never did? What if that truth still wants to be spoken? What if it's not too late? If you wrote a letter with everything you've ever kept inside, who would it be for? And would it set you free? The life you declined without meaning to, how many invitations have you turned down? Not because you didn't want to go, but because you didn't think you belonged. How many beautiful moments Did you sit out because you felt like an imposter in your own joy? Do you know how many times you've rejected yourself? What would happen if you started saying yes to the life that keeps knocking? If the only thing standing between you and joy was permission, would you grant it? Would you dare to receive what you secretly wish for? The moment you stopped, maybe it's not that your life got stuck. Maybe it's that you stopped somewhere. Along the way, you kept showing up, kept checking boxes, kept nodding and replying and surviving. But inside, something went still. Do you remember when you stopped getting excited? Do you remember when everything turned gray, even the things you used to love? What if your numbness isn't failure, but a signal? A message that says you need meaning again. What if joy isn't gone, just lost beneath too much noise? Could you still find it? The only moment that's really always waiting, waiting for the right time, waiting until you're ready, waiting for them to change, waiting for the chaos to settle, waiting to be enough. But what if this is the moment? What if now is all you have and all you'll ever truly control? Are you going to spend the rest of your life deferring your own existence? What would it look like to live today instead of waiting for permission? What would you finally begin if you stopped postponing yourself? The freedom to begin, and here you are, with every scar, every lesson, every unfinished sentence. It's every version of yourself that you had to let go of to survive. You made it. Not to the end, but to the edge of something new. Now you get to choose. You can keep performing, keep pleasing, keep enduring, keep repeating, or you can begin, even afraid, begin, even uncertain, begin, even tired, because maybe life starts not when everything is fixed, but when you decide you're done surviving. So, let me ask you one last time, if you could stop surviving, what would you finally start living?